Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm not doing a tarot card reading today. I'm actually going to be talking about shadow work and how to do shadow work. It's something that's super important to me because I feel like it's really changed my life for the better. It's not easy, it's not fun. It's something that I often talk about in tarot card readings and tell people to do shadow work. But if you don't know what shadow work is, that could be a hard journey to start. So I wanted to give you a place to start if you've ever had a reading of one of mine that says to do shadow work, or if you were just interested in doing shadow work, this is going to be the video for you. I think shadow work is so important because it allows you to self reflect. It allows you to possibly see ways that you can change your perspective about yourself, about the world, about your relationships. It allows you to unlock deeper parts of yourself, learn about yourself, and figure out really important things like your triggers or what type of person you would be suitable with in a relationship. There's so many benefits to doing shadow work, and I don't think that it's really touched on enough. And I think that every single person in the world could benefit from doing shadow work. So, what is shadow work? Shadow work is a process that allows you to figure out some blockages that you are having in your life. It may be things that you don't like about yourself, it may be past traumas, it may be something that you did that you were really embarrassed of, a habit that you have. There's many different areas of who you are that are encompassed within shadow work. Like child healing can be a form of shadow work. It's just an extremely liberating experience. Before I go any further, I just want to say that I am not a medical professional, and shadow work can seriously become very difficult. It can be painful. It can cause you to have really, really, really difficult thoughts. So if you ever get to that place in your shadow work, please stop immediately. If you have to, get the help that you need, reach out to those resources that exist, and then try to get yourself in with a actual medical professional to sit down with you and be able to do this shadow work. They will be able to guide you and make sure that you are safe while you're reliving these very difficult memories. If you get into some serious trauma when you are doing shadow work and it is no longer feeling like it's helping at all, then please stop. I just want to preface this video by saying that this is for self reflection and the outcome in the end should be positive. Now, let me just list off some different things that would be in the realm of something you could work on if you were doing shadow work. I think I'm ugly. I don't like the way I treat others when I'm overwhelmed. No one will ever love me. I'm not good at X. I'm not worthy of X. Financial blockages, extreme trauma, previous relationships, your relationship with food or exercise, your relationship with your family. Here's a couple questions that you can ask yourself if you are unsure of a topic that you want to work on. What are you embarrassed of? What are you afraid of? What area of your life do you feel a lack in? What is a problem you feel you have? Do you have any obsessions or habits you'd like to change? Being extremely healthy can be an obsession. Just want to throw that in there. Is there any situation where you feel you could take personal accountability? Do you think highly of yourself? Is it possible that you're self absorbed? Do you struggle with money, food, being alone? And if none of those questions really spark something in you, really think back to your childhood, your previous relationships, or any traumatic events that have happened in your life. You can actually have trauma all the way back to infancy. So sad to think about, but if you were not held enough as a baby, if you maybe lack nutrition as a baby, that is also an area that you can do shadow work on. This is just a process and a tool to find out more about yourself. It's the parts of you that you do not want to look at, and you are going to face them head on. One thing I've noticed with these difficulties that people face is that they often wear these traumas on their sleeve. You can honestly hear what somebody's really dealing with the way that they speak when they say, "Oh, I would never look good in that. I can't get sober. I have no friends." And one thing that I'm guilty of is I'm very poor. I will definitely say that sometimes. I have no money. Things like that. You can kind of hear your own problems. So listen, if you're wondering what you should even be working on, think about the negative things that you think about yourself and the things that you say about yourself. Once you have your list or your specific topic that you want to work on, then you will begin doing shadow work. So, how do you do shadow work? For me personally, I do my best work written out. I really love to do it alone, journaling. That is my absolute favorite way to do it. But I haven't been able to get in with a talk therapist, a psychologist, or anybody like that in my life. So I don't know, that could be an even better method for me. I've just found that that is the best method that I've tried out so far. There are many, many methods. You can do art, make music as a release when thinking about these traumas and going through these traumas. You can do certain forms of like massage, hypnosis, meditations, Reiki, energy healing of any kind, any sort of healing. You could go into that session with the intention to do shadow work for a specific subject. I'm just going to start with journaling because it's my favorite way. So, what I would do is take that topic and really ask yourself a question. So, think of a time that you were acting in a way that was emotionally reactive, and what triggered this response in you? How did you respond? How do you think that you could change the way that this whole scenario went down in the future? Could you um, never go to the place in the first place because you know that it's going to have a lot of people that are emotionally triggering for you? Could you take a walk and leave that scenario? Could you call somebody? Could you take a moment to have a few deep breaths? Could you not overextend yourself in the future? You may have said, okay, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that as a classic people pleaser. And then you come to realize, oh, why did I let myself say yes to all of those things? So maybe learning to say no might be a way that you can change. When you're doing this journaling, I really want you to think of your topic, think of how you can phrase it as a question, and then I really want you to imagine it as if you are asking your higher self or a higher source, and then try to channel what they would say through you. So for me, I basically am shut off when I'm getting these responses. It's like it's not me. It's like it's somebody else, and then I go back and read it. Like, I'm trying to get to the deepest layers of my subconscious. So I'm just writing. It doesn't have to be incomplete sentences or anything like that. A really important part of shadow work in general is to bring love to yourself, to bring grace to yourself, to bring patience to yourself. You are not doing this practice to beat yourself up. You are not doing this practice to say, look at all the times I did things incorrectly. I will never change. Look at all the flaws that I have. That is not why you are doing this. You are doing this so you can grow, so you can figure out what makes you tick, so you can find out more about yourself, so you can have grace with yourself. There was many times with my shadow work where I would say, why did I do things like this? Why did this happen? And then I would get answers like, oh, because this is how you were raised, or this is just what you saw as a child. Give yourself patience. You are unlearning things. And then I would be like, well, why did my parents do that? And then it would go on and say, your parents are still learning. It would say things like that. It would give me patience and grace with not only myself, but with other people. So, doing these practices can really change your life. It can change who you are and your personality as a whole. I'm serious. There's still so many times in my life that I'll explode and I get really explosive. But by doing these practices, I've come to realize that it's when I'm really hungry, it's when I am in a really overwhelming situation, whether that's noises, smells, lots of objects around me, just a lot of people around me, situations like that. When I feel like someone is attacking my character, when I feel like someone doesn't believe me. So, I've come to realize some of the things that will cause me to explode. And I've come to realize that I need to remove myself from those situations or just not have them happen at all. And I started buying like Ensure drinks that have tons of calories in them so that if I'm ever hungry, I just immediately drink one of those and then start cooking so that I don't have to have any time where I'm in hangry mode. No one deserves to be around me when I'm like that. It's not nice, and you have to be real with yourself. You have to see what causes those problems, and a lot of the times it could be something like control. It could be something like your feeling of lack because you really grew up in a situation where you didn't have enough, or you were the oldest child, so you always cared for everybody else and didn't care for yourself. So, like, look into each one of these things, figure out the exact why, figure out how you can change, or can you just bring grace to yourself? Can you just say, okay, that is something that I am. I'm recognizing that. And if I change, I change. And if I can't change right now, that's okay. I just want to be there for myself, love myself, and be patient with myself. And I just want you to know when you are thinking about these times that you didn't treat people with respect, or these really bad habits that you might have, something about yourself that you really don't like, or like an event that happened in your life that you did not act the way that you liked, I want you to know that you are not evil. Okay? I don't want you to sit here and think, this is my shadow side, this is my evil side. That's not true. You are not evil. You are a person and there's many aspects to you. Human beings are human beings. They make mistakes, but they are human beings. Okay, one thing that will happen to you while you're doing shadow work, you will come to realize that a lot of people are speaking out of unhealed parts of themselves. You will be able to catch it more and more because you will see the unhealed parts of yourself. So then you will be able to realize that people are not really speaking about you. They're speaking about the things that they don't like about themselves. When somebody would say something really mean to you, it may have really upset you. It would ruin your day. It may even ruin your week. Now, you start to do this shadow work, you're going to come to realize that you can kind of slide things right off of you because you're like, they were just speaking out of their own pain. If they say something like, you're a bad mother, then they may feel that they were a bad parent. If they say something like your boss tells you you're lazy or you're not doing something correctly when you were certain that you were doing it correctly the way that you were taught. that person may feel inadequate in their job. They may be taking out these feelings of inadequacy on you. The shadow is being like word vomited onto you. I think most people, they would tend to hold on to that shadow that they were just, you know, somebody spit shadow at them, and they would tend to hold it onto it, right? They may even spit that shadow onto somebody else. If you're having a bad day at work, you may come on social media and say something mean to somebody in the comments that you probably would have never done that if you didn't have a bad day at work. So, people in this world are really like pushing their shadow onto people. And we have the ability to break that chain. A lot of the times it starts with the parents, it starts with the people who raise you. If there was violence, you may struggle with violence, or you may struggle with allowing violence in your life. If there was silent treatment, non-communication, that may be something you deal with in your life. So you have the ability to break this chain from strangers, from bosses, from friends, and from your parents, from every single person in your life, your family, no matter who it is. You have the ability to break this chain and do that really important work by shadow work, journaling, or some of these other ways that I'm going to mention. When I tell people to create an energetic wall, I want them to visualize an actual light around them, right? Like there's some sort of cell. But the thing is, this energetic wall, in all seriousness, what it really is your boundaries, is your tools that you've used over time, like doing shadow work, like going to therapy. These are what make up your energetic wall. Energy is real. Energy is somebody talking to you, is music, is dancing. Energy is real. It Energy encompasses all of the actions, all of the feelings, the emotions, and everything that happens, right? So you are able to protect yourself from this rogue energy in the world by doing this shadow work, and it is so important. And I just want to say there are times when people will actually criticize you, and it is something that you should actually take into account. Like if you are missing car payments and you owe your mom $5,000 and you're going out and drinking every night, and someone says, "Hey, maybe you should cut back on drinking and pay your mom back," they probably really just think that you should cut back on drinking and pay your mom back, not that they are an alcoholic and they're just telling you, you know, the mirror reality of what they're feeling. Like they probably genuinely are concerned about you. So there are certain situations where you really should listen to people that care about you, are close to you, and you have to really be self-aware and know when something is actually serious and you really need to change and you really need to listen to others' advice. I feel called to just get my journal out so you guys can see what mine is like. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, I found some parts of my journal that I feel comfortable sharing. It's kind of hard to find parts that I feel comfortable sharing because my journal is very, very personal, and I'm sure that yours will be as well. Today, I got upset at the DMV because I couldn't see the third column. Why did this upset me trigger me so much? It upset you because you were worried about your livelihood. Being able to drive and being able to see are two very important factors to living in this society. When your lifestyle is put in danger, not being able to drive, you would spiral and be very upset. Driving is very important to you. When I feel threatened, how can I control my feelings, emotions, in a way that I won't explode onto others? You are not supposed to control them. You are supposed to talk to them. You can say to yourself, I will resume working on this later tonight. Ask, am I in immediate danger? Chances are the answer is no. If you are causing yourself to be fearful and worried for something that is not actually happening, like today, that is okay. Try to take this as a lesson to pause, check in, take a moment, ask the right questions. Like today, when you said, "Are you taking my license away?" That is all you need to know. You did good. Okay, and this one goes on for quite a bit longer, but I just wanted you to see the general way that this is set up. So I started with today I got upset at the DMV because I couldn't see. That is where you start. You start with something that happened. You start with a habit. Whatever your list that you came up with or your topic, I would write that down. And then I said, why did this upset me slash trigger me so much? So ask a question. You really want to make sure you're opening that up for a dialogue between you and your subconscious. And I got a very wonderful answer that says, you're not supposed to control your emotions, you're supposed to talk to them. Oftentimes, you really will get these answers that are much wiser than you thought you even were. There really is this deep knowledge hidden inside of you, and it is there to help you. You will be able to help yourself. Like, I answered the first question, and then I asked myself another question. When I feel threatened, how can I control my feelings and emotions in a way that I won't explode onto others? So, you want to really have this open dialogue with your subconscious. You want to ask additional questions if you feel that there's more that you want to know. And I'll just do one more quick example. This one says, rewriting my narrative on abundance. How does my inner child feel about abundance? I thought of a topic and then I asked myself a question. I really find that focusing on your inner child and how your inner child feels about things can be a really wonderful place to figure out really the why behind what you do. And my answer said, she doesn't like money. And I said, why? She said she thinks it's used for control. She has seen it destroy the people closest to her, and no one seemed to get out all right. They are afraid and scared. I said, how can I let her know that money is a tool, and if it comes naturally to us, it will be beneficial? You can tell her yourself before bed, but also there's a narrative shift you need to go through that will cause a chain reaction. I said, what is that? You need to understand that the amount does not matter. The appreciation does. If you look at 1 cent and think, boy, am I glad I don't have a negative number, that is the energy. And it goes on and on on that one as well. But there's a couple examples so you understand what journaling, shadow work journaling actually looks like. Now I'm going to talk about a couple of other ways to do shadow work. I touched on doing art as a release. So think about if you wrote a song, if you played guitar or created something on, a program that really conveyed the emotions that you were feeling in a really distressing time in your life, or maybe even the emotions of how you felt getting out of that experience in your life. Or you can even think about the shadow and try to have the experience of working on that song help you get out of the shadow and really even show that whole shift within one song. Now you can do the same thing with a painting. You could paint shackles and a house burning, or you could paint you glowing and, floating above the earth, because that's how you feel once you've gotten through this trauma. So, you can really focus on the feelings of sadness and try to release those, or you can focus on how you're going to feel when you fully get through it. You could also write a short story or a long story with somebody that's similar to you as the main character, if writing is more your art form. And there's tons of other ways. You could even knit something and say, each one of these stitches, I'm going to, think about ways that I can better myself. One thing I will say is that I feel doing shadow work just in your head without a guide, without a journal, can really cause me personally to spiral. So I don't really recommend doing shadow work that way. And also, you're unable to go back on what you've learned. Like I said, a lot of the times when I'm asking those questions, I'm really just flowing with my subconscious. So I really like to go back and read what I actually said at a later time as well. And you can't do that if you do everything in your head. Shadow work can also be done by talking to someone you trust. You can also actually just get a tarot card reading and specifically talk about shadow work in that tarot card reading. You can actually talk to a trusted friend, a therapist, a psychologist, any sort of medical professional as well. As much as I don't have experience with therapists, one thing I do know about therapists is if they're not working for you and you're not meshing with that person, then I definitely think it's time to move on, because you want to be able to freely share those deep traumatic events, these things that you may not like about yourself, and any other things that you want to do shadow work on. If you're talking to somebody about the shadow, what's really important is that you trust them, you trust their advice, you tell them, I don't want you to go and tell anybody else this information, or if you don't feel you can trust them in that way, then do not tell them, because when you're talking about shadow work, it's really personal stuff. But when you're doing this shadow work with somebody else, you really want to have an open mind. Take into account what they're saying. How could you change? Really listen to any solutions they may have, any ways that you can set boundaries in the future. Um, if there's somebody that's just consistently breaking your boundaries and just causing your shadow to really be at the forefront of your life, making you live in fight or flight mode, then it's time to get away from them. That is the always the answer. You're never going to actually be able to work on shadow and work on the traumas if you are still in trauma. If you are in consistent trauma, you are with an abuser, or you are living with parents that have yelling matches, anything along those lines, you really need to be in a safe environment to do shadow work. And another way you can do shadow work is by doing inner child healing. And that is one of the only areas of shadow work that I actually do in my head. I will do it in journaling, as you saw, but I really like to imagine myself speaking with my younger self. I will lay down before bed at night and I say, I would like to speak to my younger self. This younger self version of myself will be like any age. I've had many, many different ages. I've had like 2-year-old me, I've had like 20-year-old me almost. So younger you can come up in any form, and you are you. You are the makeup of you is every version of yourself that has existed in your life. You may not think that you remember what has happened to you, but your body remembers. Your mind may need some time to unlock some things, but when you take this time to really sit with your inner child, you will come to remember some things that you completely forgot. And be patient, bring grace, peace and love. I like to say, do you want a hug today? I know it seems like cuckoo bananas to be like talking to yourself back and forth and act like you're talking to your child self, but I promise you, it is so healing. It is so important to do this work. Your child self, I guarantee, is hurting. Children just don't understand what's going on around them, and they're very emotional. They can be affected easily. They pick up on every little detail. They're so much smarter than we give them credit for, and you were smarter. You picked up on any pains that were happening, and you may not remember, but I do really think it's important to ask, how are you feeling today? You can start with that. Anything happened today? Ask them questions. Act like they're an old friend. They're you. Just be what you needed when you were a kid. Just do that for them. Say, I'm here for you. I love you. Everything's going to be okay. That wasn't right what they did to you. You say these things that you really need to hear, and you say them to yourself. A lot of the times, these people you wish would apologize to you for the way that they've treated you in your life, they're probably never going to apologize. They're probably never going to come to their senses and realize that have narcissistic qualities or something like that. These people that are real abusers in life, they aren't going to say sorry to you. So you have to say sorry to yourself. If you want to go deeper into the actual science behind how the body actually holds trauma within from your childhood, it's a very dark read, but how the body keeps the score is a recommendation if you were looking for some real scientific data about that subject. When something comes up when you're doing this practice with your inner child, it's important. No matter how small it is important. Take it and run with it. Ask as many questions as you can. Try to figure out how it makes your inner child feel and what you can do to help. Your inner child just wants to be understood. They want to be heard. They want to feel like somebody is there to actually care about them. So you can be that for them. And that's the most magical thing. Building this relationship that I have with my inner child has been really, really enlightening. And it's sad sometimes, I won't lie, but it's important. And I'm really, really, really glad that I've done it. That's for sure. Then I also talked about, other forms of shadow work where you could get a massage that's specifically for shadow. You could tell your massage therapist, I'm looking to move out some blockages. And when you go into your massage, you can think, what do I want to focus on? Oftentimes your body, just like in the book, the body keeps a score. Your body holds on to this trauma. So you may want to look up the metaphysical meaning behind your trauma. If your lower back hurts, you probably really should do some child healing work because that's your root and that's your foundation in growing up. Your body really does hold trauma in spaces, and by doing these exercises you can release actual physical pain and actual anxieties and depression. It is reversible. It's so wonderful to be able to say that our brains have neuroplasticity and we are able to actually change the way that we think. And I truly do believe that doing this kind of work can be one of the steps that helps you on this journey to relieving some of these symptoms you may have from trauma. I've been watching financial audits recently, and this one lady said, I really had no idea it was so bad. Like, she was just not paying any of her credit cards and just swiping, swiping, swiping. And she said, I really know now that I have to do the work. I have to buckle down and make this budget and do what it takes. And I feel like that's a metaphor that you could kind of use for shadow work. It's like until you really take a look at the statements, and you really take a look at every single cent and where it went. That's kind of what it's like to do shadow work. You're taking a real evaluation of what you've dealt with, what you've experienced, and how it affects you. And until you really do that, you are unable to see the ways that you can change. You're a lot of the times unable to have a self awareness in an area to figure out where you can actually take personal accountability. A lot of the times I focus on child healing because what happened to you then, it really wasn't up to you. You had to be taken care of. There was nothing you could do. As an adult, there really is things that you can do, and I never want to victim blame like at all. I absolutely know that people that are abusive are have dealt with it for most of my life, so definitely know that. But I definitely think that I personally stayed around way too long with people that did not treat me with respect. I really do feel that doing shadow work can be life changing, game changing for you to actually get out of those traumatic and abusive situations. I hope that this video has been informative for you. If you want to do some more research about this subject, I highly recommend the book How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LaPera. She is it LaPera or LaPara? LaPara, I think. She is amazing. I will leave that link down below. She is also on Instagram at the Holistic Psychologist. Seriously, follow her. She's amazing. But that book really goes into exact detail on how to do this journaling work and reflective work on a daily basis. You can take the prompts on her website or in that book and really dive deep into shadow work and figure out a lot about yourself. It's not something you have to do every day. In fact, I don't even slightly do it every day. Yeah, I take it really slow. I might do one journal maybe every other week. There is no need to rush it. You don't need to find everything out at once. Everybody has trauma and everybody's probably going to go through some more trauma in their life, and it's up to us to really figure out how to dissipate these feelings of dread or fear or hopelessness and come out on the other side as a positive light in this world, ready to bounce light onto others. Everyone has trauma, some people way more messed up than others. Everyone has gone through something difficult in their life, and it's up to you and you alone to help yourself deal with this pain and the blockages in your life. I hope that you will go off on the journey of doing shadow work because everyone has a little part of ourselves that needs to be brought to the light with love and understanding. And a lot of the times we really are capable of doing that ourselves. So I love you all, and I hope that you have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye.